So if you're in this room, you are going to be part of the presentation about mental health awareness of kids, teens, and young adults. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, otherwise known as NAMI, wants to ensure people get mental health care early. So we're going to welcome to the stage Terri Wilkerson, who is a mother of 2 children and the program coordinator for the National Alliance on Mental Illness in Wake County. Let's welcome Terri to the stage.
Hi, my name is Terri Wilkerson. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm from NAMI Wake County as the program coordinator. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about youth mental health and the programs that NAMI offers. So we're going to do an introduction, talk about the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the statistics that we have on youth mental health, the signs of mental illnesses in children and teens, and the NAMI programs, and then we'll do a Q&A. I'm 37 years old. I have 2 children. One is 10, one is 6. I have a husband who's my best friend, and we've been together for over 18 years. I found out that I had autism and ADHD probably about 6 years ago. Whenever we were getting my son diagnosed, he had the more typical signs of autism. So I have an autistic son who also has ADHD and severe anxiety. And then my 6-year-old has severe anxiety as well. And we're also getting him looked at for mental illness because of emotional outbursts. So I'm pretty steeped in mental illness and mental health. My husband also has bipolar 2 and depression and anxiety. I apparently tick all the boxes for a NAMI Wake program. If you are a person who lives with a mental illness, you're a peer, that's me. If you have family members who are living with mental illness, that's me. And I have 2 children who have mental illnesses, that's me. So those are the main programs that we have. I have struggled with mental illness ever since I was probably 10 years old. I realized that growing up, suicidality was a common theme in my house. It was seen as an out. So I didn't realize growing up that talking about wanting to die was not normal. That was an option for my dad. He did not die by suicide. He died in an accident, but suicidality has always been on the table for me. My first suicide attempt was when I was 16. After my grandmother died, the only person who understood me from the abusive household I was in. And I also attempted in my 20s. And when I was pregnant with my second child, luckily enough, he's 6, still here. We're doing pretty good. I have complex PTSD, and I am a rape survivor. I am also a domestic violence survivor, and I am a cancer survivor. So I have gone through a lot. I have a lot of lived experience I didn't really ask for, but it's there. So neurodiversity also runs in my family. We're pretty sure my dad was autistic. It would explain a lot. So just finding out that my kids have it, and then finding out the reason why I always felt weird growing up, it was great because I got on meds to help me with my anxiety and my ADHD, and that really helped. And these are my family. This is my husband, Lewis Wilkerson. This is my James. He is 10 years old. And this is my Kai. And this is my mom when we went to the beach this year. So what is the National Alliance on Mental Illness? We have several affiliates. We go by NAMI National, then the state affiliates, and then we break them down into usually counties within the states or regions. Our vision, NAMI envisions a world where all people affected by mental illness live healthy, fulfilling lives supported by a community that cares. Our mission, NAMI provides advocacy, education, support, and public awareness so that all individuals and families affected by mental illness can live better lives. And our values are hope, inclusion, empowerment, compassion, and fairness. So we're going to talk a little bit about some statistics for youth mental health. So 50% of all lifetime mental health conditions begin before the age of 14. I am a testament to that, and so is my 6-year-old child. 1 out of 6 youth and adolescents will experience a mental health condition at any given time. And 75% of all lifetime mental health conditions start before the age of 24. However, identifying warning signs or symptoms and seeking treatment early can make a difference in how they are treated and how they can thrive. So some signs of mental illness, it actually varies for children. For children, they have more irritability instead of sadness whenever they are experiencing depression. If you see any of these signs, you might want to talk to your primary care provider. Disruptions in daily interactions and relationships, such as difficulties with routines and personality changes, changes in school performance. If James suddenly decides that he's no longer going to work, then we know something is wrong and we go and talk to his counselor and his teachers. And we've had several meetings with his IEP team this year about such instances. And usually it was because of depression or anxiety that was going on with the household. Difficulties adjusting to life changes, such as loss of a loved one, bullying, moving, divorce. If you're a military family going out on deployment, domestic violence, and excessive worry and anxiety, that's my children to a T. Worry about everything, doom and gloom, very catastrophic thinking. My little one is like, oh, okay, well then if you say that, that means nobody loves me, no one ever cared for me ever. I'm like, no, I just said you can't have a cookie right now. That's it. So he makes those huge leaps and has emotional outbursts because of them. I know that if my kids are suddenly very quiet, there's something wrong. And I need to go and talk to them and address that. Depression, feeling down, changes in mood, thoughts of self-harm, impaired sleep. They have a lot of frequent nightmares. My oldest one, he has insomnia, so he's up all the time, and I'm up with him because he wants to talk, which is fine. Substance use, sluggish behavior, increased agitation, a decline in performance at school or sports, and disengagement for loved ones, and disordered eating. I grew up with disordered eating. That really probably should have been a sign for my parents, but they didn't realize it. But excessive fear of weight loss or gain, binging, purging, if they disappear after a meal or they have their face looks flushed, they may be purging after eating a meal. Excessive exercise, obsessive control over calorie intake. Now, this isn't just checking the bottle and saying, oh, okay, this is how many calories this have. It's counting them, saying, I can't have this, and restricting yourself to a certain amount of calories, and you'll notice in what they eat. And then preoccupation with body appearance. If my 6-year-old comes to me and is like, Mom, I'm fat. He is a little chunky, okay, but he's 6 and he should not be feeling that way. If he is, then there is something else going on and he would need to probably go to a care provider. I know I talked a lot about my family. Because of the environment that I grew up in, I believe in communication, open communication, making sure that my kids know that I'm there for them. I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to throw you out of the house, and I'm not going to beat you. These are things that I had to worry about, and I learned to shut off my emotions whenever I was younger and be the people pleaser. And with autism and ADHD, we're right on track. That's exactly what we do, people pleasing, so we can fit in. So you talk about mental health, talk about your emotions with your kids, no matter their age. My kids know to tell me, I'm feeling angry. They know they can come to me and say, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, I would have gotten hit for that, but why don't you want to do it? Then you empathize with them, validate their emotions, and say, yes, I understand. It's very upsetting that you can't have what you want right now. I hate it whenever I can't do that either. We can talk about when we can have it again, and then distract them. A lot of it is deflecting attention. When they're younger, when they get older, they're a little bit more quick on the draw, and they'll call you on it. You let them ask questions of you. Mom, Why are you sad? Why are you crying? My kids have seen the PG version of my symptoms. Whenever I'm depressed, I'll have a depressive episode and I won't eat. I'll go sit in a corner and cry. And they're like, Mom, what's wrong? Like, did someone hurt you? I'm like, my brain is hurting me. And they understand that. My 10-year-old, he talks about how his brain won't let him stop. He has severe ADHD to the point where his mind is always whirling with thoughts. He can't get it to stop. And then whenever he does, he's hyper-focused because he has autism. He's hyper-focused on something that likely is not the preferred task, especially at school. But he knows to tell us these things. He knows to go to the teachers and explain his emotions. We have to make sure that we include our family. I did not know growing up that my family had mental illnesses. It was not something we talked about. It was, there's your Uncle John, he's a little off. That's how it was handled. Growing up, I became very interested in psychology and realized that my dad had mental illnesses. And I was like, you probably need to get that checked. And it helps. He finally did get checked. And then he became the best person I've ever met in my life. I did not know that my dad could be that kind. And that's with depression medication, helped change his anger and redirect it. So talk to them about it. My kids know the PG version of how my dad treated us. And they know that when someone treats you like that, that you need to tell them to back up. That's not safe. I don't feel safe. Because growing up, we're always taught, oh, you're okay. It'll be fine. It's just a small thing. But to the kids, that is their first injury. That is the first time they got rejected. And because they have nothing to compare it to, it's the worst thing in the world. So if we tell them, because, lived experience, we know what rejection feels like. We know how it feels to be disappointed. We know how it feels to get hurt and be injured by our loved ones. But with children, they don't. They have this scale that's very short, hopefully. Hopefully it's very short, and they don't know how to articulate their emotions. Until they are in their 20s, kids are not able to control their impulse control as well as adults can. And when our kids have their outbursts, they're throwing a tantrum over something. It's like, no, you can't do that. But then if something happens to us, we get mad and we throw a temper tantrum, but it's more like slamming things, huffing, walking off, not talking to someone. But we're still having an emotional response. We're still acting on it. And we're adults. We've had practice. So if our kids are acting out, give them space and give them some grace, because that's the first time that they are having these issues and they're learning to regulate their emotions through their experiences with us. We model what we want them to see. And don't be afraid to talk about suicide. I never really talked about suicide in my family, but my 6-year-old has said to me before, I wish I would die. I wish I wasn't here. And that is so upsetting to hear, because I'm like, yeah, I don't think you know what you're talking about. He's like, the world would be better off without me. But these are all serious signs, especially in someone so young. And we have to talk to the doctor about that. He's going to be tested for some mood disorders. And usually whenever mood disorders or any mental illness is found early, it could be more severe as they get older. So we're buckled in, ready for that ride, whatever it may be. Luckily enough, he has family members who are experienced with it and can talk to him about it. So what does NAMI do for us? How can they help with youth mental health? A lot of our programs are geared toward adults or young adults, 18 and up. However, we do have some presentations that we give to middle school, high school age children. We have something called Ending the Silence. It's like a 50-minute, hour-long presentation given at a school or an organization. We've had the Girl Scouts do it with us before. They get information on what it was like for a person living with mental illness while they were in school, They'll have two speakers. One is a person who had mental illnesses while living in school and they're recovered. They can come in and say, look, yes, I dealt with depression, I dealt with suicide, but I'm still here. And look at what I can do. I have all these things that I'm doing in my life and I'm thriving. And they also have the ETS will go not only to the school for the students, but we also have sessions that are for the staff. And we also have sessions that are for the parents and caregivers of the children. And we also have Ending the Silence online. Whenever COVID hit, we had to change things around a little bit. So they made the videos available online. They would prefer if you would have a speaker come in and do it because it's more informative and more interactive. But if you have no choice, you don't live in an area that has a NAMI affiliate, you can have look at the website and find the videos. NAMI on campus. So some of you may have heard about NAMI on campus. It is a club about mental health on college campuses. We raise mental health awareness. They do fairs and fundraisers. They educate the campus on presentations. They have speakers come and talk about their experiences with mental illness and how they were able to cope. Well, we have the college one, but we also started a high school one this year. NAMI National released a high school one where you can have these clubs on campus at high schools, and there are ways to get them. You go online and it says how to start a high school on campus and how to start a college on campus. So right now, the colleges and universities that I am aware of that have NAMI on campus are Fayetteville State University, which was the first on campus at a HBCU in the US. We have NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, Appalachian State, Duke University, UNC Wilmington, Meredith, West Carolina, and Winston-Salem State University. So if the college you've been to does not have those, you can advocate for there to be one. I apologize. I am having technical difficulties with my slide. I apologize. While he's helping, I was going to talk about the programs we have for the caregivers. Oftentimes when our children are having issues, we'll forget ourselves, but how we are feeling is how it will come across to the child, and it can either add or detract from their recovery. Yes. Okay. So we have programs called NAMI Basics. That's for caregivers. It could be parents, aunts, uncles, anyone who's directly involved with the care of a child. They can come up and take these courses. It'll teach them how to handle the child's symptoms, different treatments that are available, the different mental illnesses that can co-occur with the ones that they have. It also will teach you to take care of yourself and teach you how to communicate more effectively with someone who is having a crisis. And they also teach you how to be there for your child in a way that you may not know how. So this is for anyone who has a child below the age of 22. We put it on 22 because several of our populations have IDD or other mental illnesses that causes them, or health conditions that cause them to have a mentality that is younger than their age. So parents are still taking care of them. In basics, they also teach you how to transfer guardianship. If they're aging out and they're fixing to be an adult, make their own decisions, and they're not mentally stable, you can start a guardianship process and get guardianship over them so that way you can help advocate for them when they have a psychiatric crisis. We also have the on-demand program. So that is the basics shrunk down into a module, put online with all the information that you need. And the interactive part is like support groups, discussion boards like we do in college. We also have NAMI Provider. This is an education program for people who work with kids or adults who have mental illnesses. You do not have to work in a mental health clinic. You may interact with people who have mental illnesses every day and not know it until they have a crisis. Then you'll certainly know it, but you won't know what to do. So with Provider, we teach to any community health organization or a hospital or clinic about ways that they can handle the situation, what mental illnesses there are, the proper ways to handle or communicate with people who have these disorders. And it helps decrease stigma because medical professionals also have biases whenever it comes to people with mental illnesses. And we help to decrease those whenever we have these conversations with our people. So we have our signature programs. These are ones that we offer for everybody. They're all free of charge. We have Family to Family. That's for people who have loved ones with mental illnesses. You'll go to a course and they'll teach you the same things I mentioned earlier about basics, how to communicate with your loved one, the different processes for if they get arrested, if they need housing, and what different treatments they have. And that's mainly for family members that are adults. Then peer-to-peer, just like it says, is for anyone who has a mental illness. They can come in and the teachers have mental illnesses but are in recovery, and they can discuss ways to take care of themselves, what to expect from different treatments, what their options are, what their mental illnesses are. Some people may find out they have bipolar and have no idea what that is, but they look it up online and find a lot of myths and things that can be scary. So getting proper education as to what is going on with you is essential to take care of yourself. Then we have our support groups. We have Connection, which is for peers, people who live with mental illnesses, and then our family support group for family members who have loved ones with mental illness. So NAMI Wake County recently started the SOSA program, which is the Survivors of Suicide Attempt Support Group. So this is for people who have attempted in the past, they have recovered, and they come and facilitate a discussion with people who think about suicide, who have had suicide attempts in the past, those who have suicidal ideations, and they need a safe place to come and talk about it. Often, whenever you mention suicide, everybody gets upset. Like, okay, we need to call 911, we need to call the doctor. But if you live with chronic suicidality like I do, it's always there. It's like the little trinket that you got from your family because you know it's a family heirloom. And you put it up on the shelf and it gets dusty. But every once in a while you look at it and realize, oh yeah, and you'll have a passive suicidal ideation. I have them all the time. But I'm in recovery because I do not act on them and they do not change my mood. So it's dusty and it stays there. But some people, they get it and it's still raw. And so they need someone to talk to that won't immediately sound the alarm. So we give them a safe space to come and talk about it, discuss their feelings and what it's like to survive the attempt, what emotions you feel after surviving, and how people are responding to you as a survivor of suicide. We also have our stress and anxiety support group, who is for anyone. You don't have to have a mental illness. We all get stressed. We all have anxiety. That does not mean you have a mental illness. These are things that everyone will go through. Everyone has these cycles. You will have feelings of sadness. You will have feelings of anxiety. You will feel stressed. Right now, I have social anxiety really bad, but I'm powering through. So here are the resources that we have. As you can see, I got everything from NAMI. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. So is there any cost for our support group or services? No. All of our services, our presentations, our support groups, and our education are free. We do not get paid for them. We do not try to obtain money for them. This is for the good of the community, and we're trying to lift up everyone. since it is such a pervasive issue that we're facing, especially now post-COVID. When COVID came, I was hired on right after COVID came, so I've experienced the virtual world only. Recently, we started adding in-person programming right now just for peer-to-peer, but we're hoping to add more next year, especially the families. They really want the community and connection that comes with being in person. But we're also going to keep the virtual component because we realize that many people who have disabilities, maybe they have social anxiety, maybe they don't have transportation, or they don't live near us. They still need support, and we don't want to rip that away from them by cutting off our virtual support groups. So we have to build up our facilitators, the volunteers who come and help us do all of our programming. And we need to be able to offer those things in a sustainable way. I hope that answers your question. I believe we have ending the silence in Spanish. All of our programs and support groups can be accessed in Spanish. Okay, so if you're having an interaction, maybe a fleeting, like Tracy was talking about, with children that you realize have neurodivergence, that is anyone who thinks differently. They may have ADHD, they may have obsessive compulsive disorder, they may have anxiety. So mental illnesses fall underneath that umbrella too sometimes. They may have IDD, which is intellectual and developmental disabilities, or autism. When they come in, like Tracy said, you offer them compassion and care, but what else do you offer them? Listening to their voice whenever they say something is bothering them. If someone says, ouch, this hurts my ears being in this room, my child, he would not be able to be in this room when y'all are all talking. He has to have headphones on, or he will go hide underneath the tables and cry because it is too loud for him. Their clothes may feel itchy. I have to buy certain kinds of clothes so that way that they don't have tags. I have to do that for myself. So just listening when they tell you that something is bothering them, or if they seem agitated and you don't know why, look around in their environment and ask them if there's anything different. Sometimes it's too bright lights and my kid has to wear sunglasses in school. You can also try having a quiet space. It could be a corner. You're not putting them in a timeout. Trust me, usually if they have autism or ADD, getting put in a corner is okay because they get to focus. They have their own bubble and they can make it how they want it. And they can control it. Usually, if you have ADHD, the racing thoughts can get to a point where you can't focus on anything outside. So having a single point to focus on can be helpful. Does anyone else have any questions? So what do you ask on forms whenever you have children coming in? How do you ask it in a way that's not offensive? So you don't have to ask, is your child neurodivergent? You can say, does your child need accommodations? Usually, if you're a parent who's dealing with a child that has any type of neurodivergency, as soon as you see accommodations, you will get out that pen and write so much. Because I want you to have as much information as possible to keep my child from having a meltdown and having you pull your hair out. You're welcome. Okay, so you're asking about learning how to facilitate for support groups. You cited NAMI on campus. If they are 18 and older, they can become NAMI trained. That means that they will be trained in how to facilitate a support group. They will give you the tools you need to handle crises and talk to people about their emotions and get them to open up. And if it's something that you don't want to have an affiliate with NAMI, because we do have a model that we must always follow. Some people would like to go outside of that, especially religious institutions, because we purposely leave religion out since it is such an individual and sacred thing. We do not want to make anyone uncomfortable in our courses. So sometimes if you have a faith-based or support group you want, you can get training from NAMI and then go and use that training to facilitate, but you will not be known as a NAMI program. And there are other training modules you can go to, but you can find other places that will train you in facilitation. that answer your question? Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? So I have not had any personal experience with this. All of ours were handled in-house, so to say, with my family. But I do know that we have something called the Psychiatric Advance Directive. It's called PADS for short. Basically, it's like a living will, but if it's to say, like, if I have a psychotic break, if I go through and have a breakdown or I dissociate, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to make my decisions? I'm not able to. So having the PADS in place would give someone, and they don't have to be a relative. This is helpful for people who don't have a close family or they do not have close contact with their family. But they can get someone who is trusted to take care of their needs while they're in the hospital until they are able to get better. That's one that I'm aware of. All right, if there's no other questions, I really thank you for letting me speak today. And if you have any questions about NAMI and our services or mental health, you can come see either NAMI Wake County or NAMI NC. We are both here, and let us know what we can do to help you. Thank you.